Alright, what's up guys? Today we are doing a grid heater delete on a 2022 Dodge Ram Cummins. This one is from BD Diesel. It's pretty simple and straightforward. Here's everything you get in the kit. You get your grid heater delete bar that takes place of your nut. You get a couple bolts, another adapter piece. You've got polyurethane washers, gasket, QR code for the instructions, and the instruction manual. Pretty simple kit. We're going to go ahead and remove everything on top of the air intake, which is right here. So all this has to come off. The first thing you're going to want to do is disconnect your battery. We're going to want to take off this cover here. There's 4 bolts for that. All 8mm. There's one here, 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 and back there. Super easy. Just like that. So you got your 4 bolt holes. These washers do stay on, and you do have to remove your dipstick in order to get this off. Okay, the next thing you gotta get off is this bolt here holding this clamp on. It's an 11mm deep well, or it's a wrench. Okay, so that clamps off. I did have a little bit of trouble getting it off on top there, but I just used a screwdriver, a little bit of pressure, it came right off. Next, we're going to want to take off this EGR valve. There's 4 bolts, 2 in the front, 2 in the back. You're also going to want to unplug the EGR from the back. There's just 1 tab. Simple as that, comes right off. Next, we're going to want to remove all of our hoses. There's a few push tabs that I'm going to use a screwdriver for, just over top of the air intake here. Once we get those off, we can take this bracket off, and then this entire piece here can come out. So next we're going to take off our brackets. There are 1, 2 bolts here that have to come off first. The next thing we're going to want to do is take off this cable bunch and this cover that has this, says USA on the top. Next, we're going to want to take our intake up hose off. Okay, we decided to start with the intake side. So, after a little bit of deliberation, it's out. It is a little bit trickier than what I thought. There's 5 bolts there. You want to take your intake hose off with the throttle body on there. You've got a tab that holds a wire in there. A tab that holds a wire in there. You've got that plug, which is behind where you can't reach. And then there's that plug there. Pretty dirty. Especially for such a low mile truck. Quite gross, actually. It just goes to show you how bad these DEF systems are for modern diesels. The next thing we're going to do is disconnect our power from our actual grid heater. Next, we're going to use this 3/4 wrench to take off all of our fuel lines. Just sort of show you guys where I'm at. I got the rubber cover off. In order to do that, you have to unplug this sensor, your throttle body sensor. You got to clip all the attachments all the way around here. I had to remove that and that. I believe those are coolant hoses, and the fuel pressure sensor. So those guys are out. Now I have to work on the actual fuel rail. We've got the first 4 done, and that last one there is off. There is one more behind it there that we're gonna have to take off and move to the side, but we only need to get these 5 all the way off. And the bolt, or the nut for this hose here, connects way back there. You see my wrench there, and it's a difficult spot, so we're gonna have to do some research, figure out how other people have done it, and then go ahead and do that ourselves. Okay, so the grid heater plate is off. As you can see, yeah, it's quite black. I can't even scratch that down. This is the actual grid heater itself. This is what warms your engine up when it's cold out. And this bolt here is the main reason people do this kind of modification. This bolt here, because of the current that gets sent through this bar, this nut rolls off, this nut breaks off and rolls all the way back there down to cylinder 6. Causes a catastrophic engine failure and makes you need a whole new engine. So what this kit here is going to do, mind the mess, this bar is going to replace this nut. So it's going to go over top of that nut there, and it threads on from the top instead of the bottom. And so this electrical current will pass through this bar from this end here up over into the grid heater itself. We got our grid heater here. Like I said before, it's quite dark. The nut is in pretty good condition for what it is. We're going to go ahead and use some brake cleaner and just clean this all off before we go ahead and install the rest of the kit. Just a quick little clean there. It's not totally clean yet. We're going to go ahead and disassemble the stock nut and bar, heater bar. For this, we're going to need a 10mm socket, a T25 hex and a 10mm wrench. Simple as that, it comes off. So BD Diesel does provide a T25 bit, and they also provide a 10mm ratchet kind of thing, because you can't get a 10mm wrench in there. If for some reason you don't have either of these, it's a T25 and a 10mm. I ended up just using a needle nose pliers to hold it on while I took it off. It's about as clean as we're going to be able to get it. The soot isn't such a big issue as the bolt is, the actual reason we're in here. Because it's going right back in the truck and there's no way for us to clean the inside of the truck. So the next thing we're going to want to do is go ahead and stick the plastic washer with the lip. The shoulder goes inside. Here you can see that that's flush. It sticks into the top end of the bus bar there, and the little bit of plastic is the insulator. So once you've done that, you're going to want to go ahead and take your plastic insulator. There's a tab here that has to go in first. Slide that in, and then it sits on there good. Go ahead and flip it over. Now the bus bar itself, what you're going to want to do to put this back in is you're going to want to keep one of the factory aluminum or metal washers, and then go ahead and use one of these polyurethane or whatever these washers are here from BD Diesel, and sandwich those two together. And you're going to want to go ahead and shove that in between the two connect points there. You may want to use a screwdriver or something of the sort to straighten them out. You want to go ahead and take your bus bar, put it over top of the holes where it goes. It's going to sit just on the bottom side there of that bus bar. So the point of this kit is to have no nuts on the inside of the grid heater. So this is threaded for this button head washer here. So it's going to go ahead and go through the back side of that and screw right into there. Before we do that, we're going to go ahead and take the last two washers, the metal and the polyurethane, whatever this is, washer, sandwich those on top of each other, the metal on the bottom, slide those onto your button head washer, and then go ahead and take this insulator, this little thick washer looking thing, and slide that on there as well. So it should look a little bit something like this when it's done. It's going to go in from this direction. You just want to make sure your bolts are lined up. That's going to be a T25 as well. So before this is all the way tight, we are going to want to figure out this side, because once it's tight it's hard to wiggle around, and it does take some finagling in order to line that hole up. So this one fell out, slide that in from the back, push it down, and then just go ahead and get that started with your finger. This looks like a Torx instead of a hex. Once that's finger threaded on there, it's going to be a H13/16 Torx head. You're done with that, you can go ahead and finish tightening this bolt all the way. That is the repair that we're doing. It's done. This is all that really it is. Like I explained in the beginning of the video, it's a kit to delete this nut and the nut that was on the inside of there. So now there's no nuts, no possibility of anything burning and coming off and rolling down into a cylinder. Once you've reached this point, they've got two gaskets for you in the kit. One goes over top of there. This one goes on the bottom of there. And then I believe these zip ties are for retying wires back together.